Welcome home, all. We are Thursday, the 23rd of July. And as I said a few days ago, getting close to creeping out of the summer, getting into August. And then for most people in America, back to the school year. And I think I've said that before too. Most things in America are structured around the calendar school year, roughly August to May and June of the following year. And summer vacations are planned business wise around school year, Christmas vacation over the break for kids, school year. I can go on and on. Anyway, but that's going back a long time. I won't do the history lesson today, but we're getting close to being out of the summer and into back to that regular mode that kind of dictates most of the operations of our country, in a normal year, the school year, and people having kids and grandkids, weekend tournaments, games, graduations at the end, and on and on. But yeah, our life as a country is structured around our school year. Think on that, think on that one of these days and just like, wow, yeah, kind of everything is. Anyway, welcome back. Welcome home on the 23rd of July. And we'll be good next week for the Tuesday, Thursday. We got that kind of squared away and scheduled. So we're going to have some consistency in the scheduling. I apologize for that. But I think that's the main thing. We just got to be consistent, stable. I will come, on the days that I'm scheduled, and I'll bring you facts and data with my belief, my opinion, obviously, and there really is that in everything that you watch or do. I mean, we're not getting, Ted Koppel anymore, or, Edward R. Murrow, Walter Cronkite, those old dudes, and that straight-laced, literally oblivious to politics in many ways. Not to say they weren't personally, by the way, but in terms of their profession, they were able to cleave away their personal from the professional, and how they delivered the nation's news to you. And that's kind of gone. Not saying I'm trying to be that again, but my point in bringing it up is that I do temper my beliefs or my opinions and my show with those guys, with those. Ted Koppel was and it's not, Ted Koppel wasn't as old, but obviously he wasn't young back then. But I used to watch Nightline with Ted Koppel every night, and I'm sure some of you that are old enough anyway, have some of those in your background as well. Some shows you just could not live without. The sad case is that now you have people that they have a show or a host that they can't live without, and that they watch every single day, every night, religiously, like I watch Ted Koppel. The difference being, and I'll be blunt and simple, I couldn't tell you, I could not know then where Ted Koppel sat on a political spectrum. Could not know that, because he was mechanical and machine-like in his delivery of news without personal political opinion. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is almost unheard of and anathema today in the people that younger people than me listen to now. So much so that if you find someone that has the appearance of being even-handed, fair, or equal to both sides, and therein lies a rub, both sides, it's not just rare, but it's probably unlikely too. It's probably unlikely. It's hard. And I'm just saying again, because I had the benefit, most of you guys that are younger than me, my age and younger, don't have that benefit, to where the norm was a Ted Koppel, an Edward R. Murrow, the aforementioned Walter Cronkite, and I can go on, and there were others, but that was the norm back then. That was just what it was. There was no other. If you were a news host and you let your personal opinions affect your news, you didn't last. You didn't make it. They moved you out, fired you, or got rid of you, or got somebody else because you weren't true to the profession of journalism, which should be apolitical. Should be, right? That's gone. And so today, and I grieve for you if you're my age and younger, depending on how old, definitely the age of my kids, teens, 20s, et cetera, maybe even into 30s, that you didn't grow up with a news media ecosphere that was devoid of personal political opinion. You did not. And so I feel for you. I grieve for you. I'm not being an ass, but I'm just being honest and straight. You didn't grow up with that. So you don't have that in your framework that same way. And what I find mostly is that, that's lacking, and what it ends up being is a disingenuousness and a disbelief in hearing any news without a healthy grain of salt. So much so that, that's a term used in America quite often, with a grain of salt. In the past, findings, take every bit of news that you get with a grain of salt because it's healthy to disbelieve in general. Nowadays, in the past, it was like, I'll take that with a grain of salt. Nowadays, you got to take everything you hear in news, not just with a grain of salt. You might have to back up a damn truck of salt to take that news, because it probably isn't devoid of personal political opinion. So my point overall is that it is harder and more difficult for people younger than me and growing up in this current news media ecosphere. And for the record, I'm tired of even hearing, mainstream media shit. I'm tired of hearing that. You can actually make the argument that mainstream media is social media. There you go. Put a point on that. Put a cherry on top of that, because that's legitimate. You could make the argument today that mainstream media is no longer CBS, ABC, or NBC News. Because I'm going to hazard a guess. Probably have to get some data on this or some numbers, but I'm going to guess, and I'm probably right here. If I'm wrong, so be it, but I'm probably right, that the overwhelming majority of younger and newer Americans growing up and of age now do not listen to ABC, CBS, or NBC News the same way. They listen to social media. They're on their device, they're on their phones, they're on other platforms, and they're gathering their information or news from those. And to put a point on this, final point, all of those things that I've just mentioned do not have regulation. They won't get fined if they lie. For instance, and famously, Fox News paid $700 million, close to $800 million, because they lied about the 2020 election. They lied. And they're still on air, by the way. They paid the money. My point, though, is that you can't fine a YouTuber for lying on air. So they can lie left and right. And if someone has a hardcore following, and if someone listens to them every day when they get up and they go to their show and they take in all their information, and they're gathering their media, they're gathering the information, they're gathering the news of the day, there is nothing to hold that host or person accountable that's delivering that news. They can lie to you directly. They can bullshit you. They can play games. They can not tell you the truth. They can obfuscate. They can lie to you. And there is nothing to hold them to account for lying. So my point overall is, those of you of younger generations than myself, you have nothing to stop people from lying to you. You literally only have yourself. But what if you're not capable? What if you're young and you don't know better? What if you're young and inexperienced? Young being relative, by the way. You can be 35, 40, 50 and not know and not believe or not understand. So something to consider. For those of you that watch my show, the few that do, maybe you're my age or older, maybe you're my age and a little bit younger. We still haven't gotten to, and we're going to need to do that. We're going to get to a younger audience. And I'm going to force you guys, you younger audiences, I'm going to force you to not just listen to me because I'm telling you what you want to hear, and I'm trying to go viral and trying to bullshit you into coming back to my show, coming back to my stream. I'm going to play a very hard, very dangerous game. And I've been playing it for about a half year now. We've been on the air a little over a half year. Playing a dangerous game. I don't think it's dangerous personally, but the point is this. I won't do it. I'm going to give you facts, give you data, give you honest, straight-laced opinion, and force you to come back for more. Basically, I'm going to make you eat the steak and the papas on the side with some vegetables, maybe a little bit of a salad, without the dessert, without the fluff and the garbage. I'm going to make you eat the good meal and not do the easy thing and tell you what you want to hear, give you what you want, play games with you to keep you. Because that hasn't helped this country and that hasn't helped us as a whole. You need to be well fed to have a healthy body. You need to be well informed to have a healthy mind. Okay? So without any more here, I just wanted to point that out before we started the show tonight. I'm going to have some fun with this little show a little bit. Some pleasant stuff, obviously, but some others too, not as pleasant. But I want you to be aware of that, be cognizant of that. Is that if you are in your 20s, 30s, maybe even into the 40s, I'm in my mid-50s plus, I remember Ted Koppel, okay? I stayed up to 11:30 at night to watch Ted Koppel on Nightline. And I don't give a shit who knows that because it's the truth, and I liked it. He was a funky-looking dude, but, man, I can rely on that dude to give me news with no garbage, no bullshit. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate it now. I really do. I didn't appreciate it at the time. I just used him as a source and a news source to get me good quality information of the day's events, of the day's news, of global affairs. I relied on Ted Koppel to do that, right? And don't get me wrong, others too. But Ted Koppel was kind of my guy. 11:30 at night, and I used to watch Ted Koppel. But you guys out there, most of you do not know what it is to have that as a North Star beacon, guiding light for intelligent and thought-filled, honest news. Most of you do not get that. And I'm saying most of you because those of you that are younger and growing up, but in general, as a whole now, I'm saying I don't get that either, okay? Because those guys ain't out there anymore. They're not out there the same way. And last point to this overall point to begin the show tonight is it happens to coincide and dovetail with the fact that with the advent of and the growth of channels in general and the additional sources of media, you can bitch and complain about ABC, CBS, and NBC back then and how that isn't anything. 3 channels monopolized everything. But again, they were regulated. They had to tell the truth. And when we went to 4 and Fox became a legitimate alternative channel, became NBC, ABC, CBS, and now Fox, 3 to 4, then the wheels came off, and then there were more and more and more. And now there's all kinds of ways, and you would make the argument and it should be a legitimate argument, that with all of these different types of information to gather, all these different ways to learn, that you would think we'd be better off and smarter for it. And I can make the counter argument that we're not, because there's no regulation. There are no guidelines for podcasters, YouTubers, streamers, etc., including my show, by the way, including this show. There's nothing to stop me from lying to you, to bullshit you, to play games. Nothing other than me self-regulating and telling you on air, for the record, others don't do that, but telling you on air that I actually try to tell you the truth and give you data and facts. And I will give you my opinion, but I will tell you when it's my opinion so you can make up your own damn opinion and not just go with mine because I'm making you or wanting you or conniving you into believing the things that I tell you. I actually tell you up front on air, looking into the damn camera, fact check me, and don't believe me if I lie to you. Instead, quite the opposite has gone on where maybe we're not going to go viral or grow overnight because I do tell you the damn truth, and I'm not trying to just gain views or followers. That's a scary proposition if you're me. But I rely on one thing for myself. I am slow, I am methodical, I am patient, and I am disciplined. And I wear people out. I wear others out because I just do not stop. And my rationale is that is the American way. We outlast, we outwork. You don't get it overnight. You don't jump to the top of the charts in one night, one day, a week, a month, months. You have to wear people out, and you have to build, you have to grow. And that is, to me, the American way. So let me stop there, but I wanted to crystallize that point. Be aware, my listener, my viewer, Supermex Nation member, the show for the thinking Mexican, the show for the thinking American. Be cautious, be careful of what you get and what you intake in information and news, because it is very, very little in terms of regulation to force people that give you this news to tell the truth. They don't have to. They can lie to you. They can bullshit you. They can play you. And there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it. A la the current punk in chief. You know, we have a president that can lie more than any president in the history of the United States. And what can we do about it? Nothing. He can lie. And we just have to sit and watch. Kind of the same with news. Think about that. If you don't know, if you remember nothing from tonight's show, remember that when we grew from 3 channels, CBS, ABC, NBC, and their affiliates all across the country, we lost some veracity, V-E-R-A-C-I-T-Y. We lost veracity and truth in the news and the information that we take in on a daily basis, to the point that today there is very little to no regulation of what the average American takes in for news on a daily, minute-by-minute basis. That's a fact. But I want my listener to mull over that fact, to think about it, to concern themselves with it. Because again, and final point here before I move on, as I've said a bunch of times on our show, and I really like saying it because it's the truth and it's good practice. To defeat a trap, you must know of its existence. I'm making you aware of the existence of a lack of factual information, of intelligent information, of truthful news distribution in the current media climate. And a reminder, media, when I say media, I'm not saying the tired ass mainstream media thing, because the mainstream media, you can make the argument easily now, especially now. And as we go forward, by the way, going forward, you can make the argument mainstream media is not CBS, ABC, or NBC. Mainstream media is social media. What you gather on platforms that, and final point, that are largely, almost uniformly, almost entirely unregulated. They can lie to you and do not have to pay a price. And when there is no price to be paid, people will lie. People will do it. It's being done now. So consider that. That's for my listener, my viewer. I want you to consider that when you take in information day to day. And again, as always, including with me, how many hosts are going to tell you to fact check themselves? Do that. Don't listen to me if I lie to you. Go somewhere else. No one will tell you that. I will, because I'm telling you the damn truth. Okay. I wanted to point out a couple things. I mentioned over the last couple of weeks that as a people, as a species, you need to have some enjoyment, some entertainment, some fun, etc. And that's been hard during these terms of Donald Trump, because he inserts himself into every aspect of our lives, every aspect of our thought process, our culture, our society. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. I think I'll say that for sure, most Americans in general are tired of that shit. Most Americans in general don't want to hear that. Most Americans in general don't want to watch a football game and have to worry about Trump showing up and saying something stupid. Most, watch this, not just most Americans, but most people on the planet don't want to see the Spanish team win the World Cup and Donald Trump trying to get in the photo. That's not what people want to see. Like, get your ass out of there. We don't want to see you. We want to see the Spain football team, soccer team. That's what we want to see. Specifically, and I won't go too far here, but specifically because Donald Trump talked crap and shit about Spain, its country, and its people. And I'll say this to their credit, and I'm going to say to their credit, none of the Spanish team did anything or said anything at the time to take away from their win. I'll give them credit. Did Donald Trump? No, because he doesn't give a shit. He just does what he wants and doesn't care about anybody else but himself because he's selfish and he's a little person. But yeah, I didn't want to see Donald Trump on the stage with the Spanish national team as they won the World Cup. I don't want to see that. I want to see the Spanish national team because they're the ones that did the work. They're the ones that played the game. They're the ones that fought and scraped to get the damn title. I don't want to see some sorry-ass politician getting on a stage trying to claim something that they're not. That's my America. Okay, so whole point to all of this is sport, right? And I did mention maybe a few weeks ago, if not in the past for sure, I'm a Dodger fan, been a Dodger fan for a long time since I was a child. I mentioned that as well. It's the only thing that my dad obligated me to before he died when I was a boy. It's the only thing that he ever really obligated to. He didn't make me be a Laker fan. He didn't make me be a Rams fan. Those things came later, and I am a Laker fan. I'm more of a Rams fan than I am a Laker fan in that kind of order. In terms of sport, even though I never played baseball, I like baseball. Especially now, I like watching baseball even more so. It's quicker in terms of the rules that they've applied. I like football, love watching football. And then I don't watch basketball as much anymore, nowhere near. Once in a while I'll try to catch a game. But for the most part, those are my teams in that order. Dodgers, Rams, Lakers. And for the record, yes, obviously all LA teams. I'm a Southern Cal guy, grew up, born in Indio, California, and my family was mostly, Southern Cal, LA, and in Southern California. But yeah, the Dodgers were the only team my dad obligated me to. The Dodgers were the only team that he made me watch. And I'll never forget, because he ended up dying a few years later, but when I was 6 and 7 years old, I remember going to relatives, a home with all of our relatives and our friends, and watching Dodgers and the Yankees in those two World Series back to back in 77 and 78. And I remember as a great, those are some of the best times of my life that I can remember as a kid, as a little boy, being with my pop and him defending the Dodgers. They lost both of those series, by the way, but my dad fighting with the other family members who were pulling for the Yankees. And we were Dodger fans. And so those are some of the best moments of my life. I'll never forget that. Just good times with family. Obviously, when my dad was still alive, so great time, but with family and watching sport and not having to worry about a president sticking his nose in the damn game or commenting, right? Never would have thought that would have never happened. There's another thing we've lost that way. Anyway, so the point is this: the Dodgers, as I put in tonight's title, the Dodgers have won back-to-back titles the last 2 years. And they're going for a third. I would say we're well over halfway, getting close to 2/3 of the season done. We're 2/3 of the way through the season. Not quite there, but getting close. Obviously more than half. And I kind of joke and I talk some of this with my producer, my young buck, Dominican, and we talk about, or at least I talk to him about, we talk about both our teams. He's a Giants fan. I'm a Dodger fan. And I say that my only concern It's not that the Dodgers don't have the talent, the skill, the capability, and the team to win another title. They do. That's blunt and a fact. Okay, they do. However, if they don't win it, if they don't do a three-peat, if they don't win the World Series championship this year, because I think it came close last year. And I'm gonna further my point for those of you guys that aren't necessarily baseball fans, but it's kind of holistic anyway. It means general. It's not just for sport. But it's because the Dodgers are getting older. They are one of, if not the oldest starting lineup in baseball. In baseball. I'd have to I think I'm pretty sure they're if I make the statement that they're one of the oldest starting lineups in baseball, that is accurate. That's a fact. I don't know if they're specifically the oldest lineup in baseball. However, the point is that's where they are. That's where they are. Their superstars are well into their 30s. Their all-stars and other regular players, everyday players, are into their 30s. I don't have exact numbers. I'm not going to pull it up. But Shohei, greatest player on the planet, probably the best baseball player in history. I'll make that statement. He's 32. I think he turned 33. So he's not 20-something. He's not ancient. He's right in the middle of it, probably. And if that dude, if he takes care of his body and does all the things, even with the fact that he damages and punishes his body and uses his body more than any other player in baseball, because he's a two-way player at elite levels in both hitting and pitching. There is wear and tear. You can only do that to your body for so long before the body begins to break down, deteriorate, or decline. Okay? It's just fact. Father Time is undefeated, right? Everybody knows that. And he's getting older. Mookie Betts is older than him. I want to say Mookie's 33, 34. Freddie Freeman's, I think, going to be 36. They're around there. I could be off by a year or two here or there, but for the most part, you get the point. Muncy at third base is older, 36, I want to say. Teoscar Hernandez in left field. He's in his early to mid-30s. Tucker, who they just got this last year, he's on the back end of his 20s. Pages, my favorite guy outside of Shohei, my favorite Dodger is Pages, the center fielder. He's 24. Happy about that. But then you run again back. Will Smith is hurt. He's in his 30s, all-star catcher. He's actually on the injured list right now because getting banged up. Dalton Rushing, the backup catcher, he's in his 20s. That's good. But again, around the horn, you got Muncy at third, 36, 30-something. Mookie at shortstop, 33, 34. Tommy Edman, who's back after injury, he's in his 30s. I think he's 32. You get the point. Freddie, 36 at first base. So I've gone through the whole starting lineup. Uniformly, the starting lineup is almost all in their 30s other than Andy Pages. And the only one that currently right now is Dalton Rushing, and that's only because Will Smith is hurt, who's the starting catcher. Okay, so you sum all that up, and as I've said before, that I talk, kind of some of this with my producer, and I tell him, like, we're old, we're older, okay? And I'll never forget this because I do think it mattered. At the end of Game 2, last year's World Series, Game 2, last year's World Series, where they went 18 innings. Basically, in essence, they played 2 games in one night. I was watching, and we won it. Freddie Freeman hit a homer, knocked it out of the park, and we went home, and we won the game. Series was tied 1-1. I was actually sitting there saying, like, oh, we're going to pay for this. And I'm like saying to myself, right, because I watch my games, like, we're going to pay for this, meaning the Dodgers. So we're going to pay for this because that 18-inning game, we got a day off, but so did the Blue Jays. And the Blue Jays are a younger lineup. And if I had to bet money, and I don't bet because I don't gamble, I'm not a gambling guy, but if I had to bet money, I said I would not bet on the Dodgers the next game because all things equal, 18 innings is going to wear on the team that's in its mid-30s more than the team that's in its mid-20s. And that, ladies and gentlemen, came to pass because the Dodgers lost the next 2 games in a row. They lost game 3. They lost game 4. The Blue Jays were up 3-1. The Dodgers were on the brink of elimination. And my point is, they were tired. And they did not recover from the 18-inning game as fast as the Blue Jays. Now, we're splitting hairs, obviously, a little bit here. But I think you understand my point. Fatigue and wear on an older athlete takes more time to recover than a younger athlete. No one's going to dispute that. No one's going to argue that point with me. And then you take that collectively as a team when overwhelmingly the majority of your starting lineup is in its 30s and the majority of the Blue Jays lineup was in its 20s. My point is the Blue Jays recovered faster from the long-ass 18-inning game than the Dodgers. And it showed. They look slower. They look lethargic. They look a little more tired. They lost game 3. They lost game 4. And then they're on the brink of elimination. They scrape it out in game 5. They scrape out another in game 6. And then we scrape out game 7. I'm giving you that backdrop. If you're a Dodger fan, stay with me. Even if you're not, stay with me because there's a larger message in addition to the sport part of it. But they scraped it out. Everybody knows that 6 inches less Will Smith's foot on home plate. If it's pulled off even a tiny hair, the Blue Jays win. Crazy how many opportunities and how many times the Blue Jays could have won that came down to literally inches and centimeters. But I'm going to say it again. The Dodgers wore harder and more tired than the Blue Jays. Now watch this. Again, as I've said, I do believe they have the most talented lineup in baseball, but the lineup is older and it wears. Okay? So you take that from last year and then you add this. Again, this is all stuff I talk about with my producer. We joke and laugh about it because it's true. That the Dodgers have played more games, more innings than any other team in baseball over the last 3 or 4 years. Maybe even further than that. Because if you take into account the regular season, which everybody plays, right, 162 games, everybody plays 162 games. And then you add playoffs. And you can make the argument, the Dodgers in the playoffs every year. The Dodgers are going deep in the playoffs every year. Matter of fact, the Dodgers over the last 2 years have gone further and more than every other single team in baseball over the last 2 to 3 years. It's not even close. It's just data. It's numbers. They've played more games. They've played more innings. You might as well say innings because, again, that last year's World Series game 2, it was game 2, but it was 18 innings. In essence, it was 2 games in 1. So that collectively wears on you over the course of not just a series, a World Series, a National League Championship Series, a Division Series, a Wild Card Series. 162 games. You total it all, and they have played more innings than every other team in baseball on a team, for a team that is older than just about every other team in baseball. So as I stipulate and I state all of that to you, you begin to understand. You're like, oh, when you put it like that, yeah, they've got to be tired. They're human, okay? I don't know about Shohei sometimes, but they are human. If you cut me, will I not bleed? Right? They are human. They have to tire. I will give the Dodgers credit for this, meaning the organization, the team, the structure. They do a really good job of inserting younger players into the everyday lineups over the course of the season to spell or to give Freddie Freeman a night off, to give Teoscar a night off in the field, to sit Shohei and not have him pitch 1 start, give him an extra week of rest. They do a very good job of that because, one, their lineup is deep and their organization and their minor league system is one of the best in baseball. And that's the only thing. If they didn't have that, they could not be doing it the way they're doing it. But my final point and the overall, again, is simple. If they don't win another World Series, it is because age catches up to them. Now, don't get me wrong. There could be some fluke crazy thing, some bloop single, a Luis Gonzalez single over, off of Mariano Rivera that stops their four-peat, like the Yankees did in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Chance. And baseball has a way of correcting itself that way. And that's possible. But I do believe, and if you really take a look and analyze the World Series last year, all 7 games, then you'll find everything that I'm telling you to be true. Everything is factual. It's all true. Those things happened. And that is my concern for this season. Now, for the record, want them to win. Obviously, I'm a fan. I'll say I'm a diehard. I don't like saying that, but I'm a diehard fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not a fan, and I digress for 1 second here, but not a fan of today, for the record. Not a fan of them going to the White House today. Not a fan of that. Because a large percentage of the Los Angeles Dodger fan base is Mexican-American and Hispanic in general. And this White House and this administration is not exactly treating, let's pull the bandage off. They're not just not treating Mexicans and Hispanics good. They're treating them as subhuman and less than human. They're treating them like animals, beating them in the street, throwing them into cages, putting them in internment camps, prison camps, in essence, concentration camps. And again, to reiterate the point, because I do watch some podcasts and some streams of Dodgers. I never knew this, but there are actually people sitting in basements that they do a show about the Dodgers and get people to pay them to do the show. And that's a living. It's kind of crazy to me, but hey, that it is what it is, right? I've got no control over that. I not even necessarily disagreeing with it. I mean, you can find a way, I guess, but there are people that run shows about the Dodgers, basically all Dodgers, talking about the Dodgers day to day. They have shows. And I have watched as they uniformly, and if any of them were to ever watch this show in particular, which I doubt that would happen, not for lack of intellect and not for lack of thought-provoking talk or facts. Okay? That's what we spit here. But uniformly and almost with a deliberateness, they do not talk about what I'm talking about now, this issue, this in particular. The Dodgers and the Los Angeles Dodger fan base that is largely massive percentage of fandom is Mexican-American and Hispanic, migrant, and immigrant in general. That is the Los Angeles Dodgers fan base. I'm not saying there aren't others. I'm not saying that. You want to be petty and simple and stupid, go ahead and quibble with that. You're welcome to it. But no one will deny and no one can argue that a large chunk of the Los Angeles Dodgers fan base looks like me. Mexican, Mexican-American, Hispanic, Latino, and migrant, immigrant. Hell, you can make the argument foreign. They got a monster showing in Japan and other parts of Asia, Korea. They're all over the place. And this administration and Donald Trump in particular are not exactly amenable, favorable, or good to the groups and subgroups that I've just spoken about. They've not. And yes, again, I've watched shows. I've watched Dodger-specific shows that actively and with the deliberateness stay away from this topic because it's always the same. Oh, it's political. We don't get into politics. But politics gets into you. And therein lies the honesty and the truth to it. And therein lies the spine, if you have it. You can make the argument and say, oh, I don't want to talk about it because that's politics. I'm here to play baseball. I'm here to talk about baseball. I'm here to talk about my sport. I don't get into politics. And reiterate the point. Politics will get into you. Politics does. So if politics is deporting members of your fan base or beating the shit out of them in the street, throwing them into cages like animals, coming in the middle of the night and taking somebody's Thea, yeah, you keep going on air and saying that you don't get into politics. But politics will get into you. You can avoid it, hide it because you don't want to touch it, because maybe you'll lose some people on your show, on your podcast, on your stream. Maybe your numbers will go down. Then I submit to you that you lack spine in this country as an American. You can have argument with it. You can not like it, but it is the truth. You don't have to like it because it's coming from me, and you can attack me and say things about me. I'm used to it. I enjoy it. It's actually funny to hear the shit people say about me, but they never refute my facts. They almost uniformly make it ad hominem personally against me. But to finish that point, I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to finish it with facts. A large, overwhelming percentage of the Los Angeles Dodgers fan base is Mexican American, Hispanic, Latino, immigrant, migrant, foreign. I also submit, this time for your approval, an argument that's extremely American. That is American. The American thought, the American dream, the American principle doesn't get much more than that. It is that. The American way. To include, to be inclusive of all people from all over the damn planet. Come on down. We got a place for you. You work hard. You want to be a part. Bring your energy. Bring your drive. Bring your hunger. That's about as all-American as it gets. And the Los Angeles Dodgers fan base is that. I'm part of that. Others are part of that. And as I think on that, I think I'm going to, watch this, I'm going to make an on-field call, game time decision as we speak. We're going to finish here tonight. We're going to wrap here tonight because I don't want to get to the other part. We'll save that for next week. Job approval, the politics of, because I'll say this, not to move to that topic. We're not segueing here, but I've said it before, and we've done this on air. We've done this in shows, and we're going to do some more because it's part of the news structure, and we have to give you facts. The overwhelming percentage of America in general, not just what the aforementioned, what I was talking about, Mexicans, Mexican Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, immigrants, migrants, foreigners, etc. The overwhelming percentage of this country does not approve of Donald Trump and what he's doing in almost anything. That's a fact. Those are facts, data points. Okay, so we're not going to talk about that tonight. I was going to get to that. It's in the title. I apologize. We're not going to do that tonight. We'll save it for next week because it's understood. It's known. It's a given quantity that you can understand, you can wrap your head around and know. We're literally just quite sifting through what the percentages are, what the data, what the numbers are. We know in general that that's the case, and it is true. Okay, and I'll bring this back to the point of my topic in general, which what I was talking about in terms of the Dodgers and its fan base. I would hazard a guess, and it's not a guess because I don't make guesses. I make informed decisions. I take in data, and then I spit what the belief is. I would say the overwhelming percentage of the Dodger fan base is not a big fan of Donald Trump. But the Dodgers went to the White House today to bend the knee, kiss the ring. And I'm being a little hard, but it's the damn truth. And I'll say it. I'm going to guess that the majority, or at least let's because I can't know that. Let's just say I can know that there are definitely players on the Dodgers that are not comfortable with it, probably would prefer to have not gone, but they got to go because they're not ownership. And they like being on a team that wins. They like being on this team. They like having a job and making millions of dollars. They didn't make the choice. Ownership made the choice. And last point, and This is where I'll probably catch a little bit of hell if some watch, but I don't care because, again, it's the truth. A few years back, Dave Roberts, who is half African-American and half Japanese, a colored man, non-white man, basically kind of stood on some principles a few years ago about what's going on in the administration, what's going on in terms of immigration and immigration policy and some other things. And I was like, all right, yeah. And that was a few years ago. And now, all you'll get out of him if you ask that tough question, and some reporters have asked him about this particular White House visit that took place today. And his answer basically is the backed up version, scaled down version, waffled version of, oh, that's politics. I don't get into politics. Could you imagine if Jackie Robinson, damn, I'm good. Could you, because this is the Dodgers, could you imagine if Jackie Robinson didn't come up and play for the Dodgers as the first African-American to break the color barrier? And don't be stupid now. Be smart. If that isn't politics, I don't know what the hell is. Because society was that, and the political followed the society. He broke the color barrier. Now, uniformly, we can all say that was a great thing. That was an honest thing. That was a good thing on the part of the Los Angeles Dodgers, the first team in baseball, the first Major League Baseball team to promote and play an African-American player. That is what the Dodgers are to me. That. Spine. Backbone. Balls. The Dodgers as an organization, even though they're my team, and I was raised on them, I'll make the statement, and I'm not saying a specific individual. Don't do stupid stuff there, but I'm going to say as a whole, as a collective, as a group, as an organization, I would make the case and make the argument, and I'll win this argument for any of you who'd like to have it. And they sure as hell won't do it on social media. That's stupid. But I'll make the case and the argument that everything that I've mentioned, everything that I've stated, that the Dodgers had as an organization in promoting, bringing up, and playing Jackie Robinson, the first man, the first player, the first African-American to break the color barrier and shatter that ceiling to make America a better place, was about as politic as it gets. And everything I said about that in terms of Jackie Robinson, for sure, but the Dodgers back then as an organization, spine, backbone, balls. Not baseballs. Like that. Not baseballs. And I submit to you now, as a matter of course, the Dodgers organization does not have the same degree of spine, backbone, balls. Not baseballs. You like that, Dominic? Not baseballs. You could find fault and not like it. But if you're going to take a shot at me and say something about me, then at least make it factual and on the data point. I'll leave that to you as a question for those of you that might want to ask. Do you feel the Dodgers have the same level of spine, backbone, and balls that they did when they promoted and they played Jackie Robinson as opposed to today? I know what the answer is. The answer is actually rhetorical. It's up to you to ask yourself that question. Okay? That is our show for tonight. I'll get into Hispanic approval going into next week, but we talked about sport. We're talking about sport. But sport is an aspect of society. Sport is an aspect of the human condition. Sport is an aspect of who we are and our fundamental needs and wants for entertainment, joy, pleasure, and watch this because you know I'm coming to it. If you're a Supermax Nation member, sport is a fundamental component to, come on now, you should know, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You heard it here, okay? Because we are a constitutionally principled show, Supermax Nation. Those of you that have been with me and know me, you do know that. That is what we do here in one way or the other. And I just took baseball, today's current baseball climate, the Dodgers and their quest for a three-peat, and I made it relevant constitutionally. Constitutionally, you heard what I said. That's why there's gold in this Supermax Nation, this show. For those of you that are willing to stay and to put on your thought hat, stay, listen, and learn. There's a lot here. There's a lot of meat and potatoes here. And you may want the dessert first. I don't do dessert. That's kind of a true thing. I really don't do dessert. Personally, I just kind of do. Don't get me wrong. I have a lemon meringue pie. My mom got me that, gets me that. My wife does too. It just, I like lemon meringue pie. But I'm a meat and potatoes guy. I always have been. For those of you that are former students, you know what I'm talking about. I'm a meat and potatoes guy, right to the base of the bone, right? So, yeah, that's where we go with all of it. But yes, the Dodgers visit the White House. Nothing I can do to stop it, but I don't have to be happy about it. I don't have to like it. And I'll make that point and I'll make that case, even though it's my team, grown up with them. One of the most important things in terms of time spent with my father that I've got in remembrance before he died when I was a boy, the Dodger games, 77, 78 World Series. Some of my best memories in my life as a little boy with my dad before he died. But my dad would be the first. My dad would be the first one bitching, complaining about this shit, by the way. He'd call it out because my dad didn't tolerate a whole lot of bullshit. And he had spine. He had backbone, and yes, he had balls. No, Dominic, not baseballs. Okay, so final point, and we went a little further, but think about those things. You could still love your team, but there's nothing wrong with questioning their motivation and their beliefs. You're a fan. You watch. You go to the games. You pay. If there are no fans, there are no sports. There are no teams. That is the aspect of society I like, are taking agency and ownership of what we can and cannot do. We're not totally helpless. Now, again, I can't stop the Dodgers from going and bending the knee and kissing the ring at the White House. I can't stop that. But I can call it out. And last point, finish here. I will call out the shows that spend their time, energy to take money from their viewers to sustain themselves as a show, as a podcast, as a stream, and they tippy-toe around, evade, escape, and don't deal with that fundamental aspect of this administration's immigration policies, its treatment of Mexicans, Mexican Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, immigrants, migrants, and foreigners. That is part of the Los Angeles Dodgers fan base. And I challenge, invite any show that does Dodger content to have a spine and say something about it. Do something about it without fear or favor and without fear of repercussion that you might actually lose some views or subscribers. That's badass. That's all American. We'll be back next Tuesday and Thursday. Same bad time, same bad channel. None but love for you. Have a good weekend. As always, be mindful of what you do, what you hear. Sift it through your Supermax Nation filter to get rid of the bullshit and get right to the core of the truth. Nothing but love for you. We'll be back on the Tuesday.